actually the very first girl in the entire grade to get a mustache. And then I didn't get my period until I was like 15. So it's sort of like for the first few years, my hormones were just reading the wrong manual. The part of me that's in charge of fashion just decided to hold on to it. They were like, this is working. She's weird, she doesn't need to be cute. I was raised with one sister, and my parents put a lot of effort into making sure that we were two strong, independent, feminist women. And now my parents don't have any grandchildren. And honestly, that's on them. Like, they could have raised a whore. And they did. But we're Democrats. I have the copper IUD. Is anyone familiar? Yeah. It's basically just a small coat hanger. Just stays in your uterus all the time. It's just a back alley abortion for the women on the go. The Go-Gurt of birth control, if you will. The way it works is that the ions in the copper interfere with sperm and egg. And that's why no one's ever knocked up the Statue of Liberty. That's actually how scientists discovered the copper IUD. They were like, how come no one's knocked up this broad yet? They looked into it. 50 years later, my parents don't have any grandchildren. And let me tell you, they want grandchildren, right? And I think it's because all of their friends have grandchildren. So I had to sit them aside and say, Mom, Dad, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, I still won't have a baby. But my mom is relentless, okay? Like, she just doesn't understand the meaning of the word no. I'm not sure what fraternity she was in, but I think it's under investigation. But my dad is great, you know. He's a lot like a sorority girl. He's like very supportive, but he was also very hard of hearing. So it was like being raised by Siri. Like, my mom and I were talking once about Marie Kondo. Are you guys familiar with Marie Kondo? Yeah, so it's basically, I did the whole thing. You know, I went through my house, picked up each object. If it brings you joy, you keep it. If it doesn't, you get rid of it. And at the end of the day, I realized I'm just depressed. And I've given away all of my things. So my mom and I were talking about this, and my dad jumps into the conversation. He goes, yes, we had a married condo. I was like, Dad, what the fuck is a married condo? He goes, your mother and I, we were married and we had a condo. So I just assumed that's what you were talking about. It's like he's heard so little in the past 30 years, he thinks we just have a new vocabulary. But I love my dad. I go to him all the time for help, for support, for advice. And this summer I needed some advice because my company was taking us on a lake trip. So I called him and I said, Dad, I don't know what a work-appropriate bathing suit would be. And he gets very serious with me. He goes, Kate, I don't think it's appropriate to wear a bathing suit to a wake. Yeah, he thought that I said wake trip. What a weird way to say, hey, my coworker is dead. And also, the man has not heard anything I've ever said to him directly. And still, his first thought was, my grown daughter thinks it's appropriate to wear a bathing suit to a wake, or, you know, maybe I misheard her. And he wants grandchildren. He won't be able to hear them, but he wants them. And I think it's wrong to pressure women into having kids, right? Like, you shouldn't do that under any circumstances. On the other hand, I think my sister should just take one for the team. You know? Like, it would take a lot of pressure off of me if she got pregnant. But she disagrees, you know, so we just go to bed praying that the other one's birth control fails. Unfortunately, she also has a mini coat hanger, so it's not happening. But my best friend, she just had a baby on Valentine's Day. And for Valentine's Day, I cried about my ex. So we're both killing it. And I'm 29, so a lot of my friends, pretty much all of my friends, are getting married and having babies. So I joined a skee-ball team. And it worked, it did. I met someone on the skee-ball team. We were both single. I thought he was really cute, and then a few weeks in, he introduces us all to his new girlfriend. Not me, right? And she was beautiful, like she has blonde hair, huge tits. It's like he met me and was like, you know what, I'd like the opposite. And like she was beautiful, and as a bisexual, I just didn't know if I was more jealous of her or his face. You know, like do I want to fall in love with him or do I want to fall into her chest? And bisexuality is just about being confused. Like when we come out and people say you're confused, those are the allies. And it is confusing. Like a lot of people want to know the difference between like bisexuality and pansexuality. And so bisexuality is when you're attracted to multiple genders. And pansexuality is when you're attracted to multiple genders with confidence. So like I recently moved to East Boston, and I can feel myself getting straighter. It's like, am I bisexual or have I just lived in Somerville for 5 years? But then I went to something called the Glitter Boys Disco. Is anyone familiar? Oh, so you're all straight, I guess. But it was a good time. And like, ladies, I'm a feminist. I would never steal your men. Men, I have no allegiance to you. I also have no game with women. So like I was at this Glitter Boy Disco and I was talking to this girl. She was really cute. We were flirting, we were dancing. So I decided to make my move, which is, do you want to make out? And she goes, I do, but I can't because I'm working on myself right now. I was like, cool. You've been working really hard, maybe you could take a break. We can make out and then you can go right back to working on yourself. She was like, no, that's not the point. And I was like, all right. So then I just like went to the bar, met a guy, asked him if he wanted to make out, and he said yes, because men are never working on themselves. Marriage really freaks me out. Terrified about getting married and stuff. And I think that marriage was easier before women had rights. Because think about it, back when I was just property, I had to marry for money, you know, and I understand money. But now I have to marry for things like love and happiness. And I grew up Irish Catholic, so I have no idea what love and happiness are. But I have to figure it out before I turn 35 and my uterus falls out. I don't think my uterus will fall out. I hope it doesn't. But I do think that if I'm not married by 35, the townsfolk are going to burn me for witchcraft. So I'm trying to figure it out. I went to a Catholic school. Are there any Catholic school survivors here? Just one? Yeah. When I was in Catholic school, I was always just like terrified about getting pregnant. I wasn't having any sex. But Mary, do you guys know Mary? Yeah. You've heard of her, right? So she never sinned her whole life. And as a reward, she got to be on the first season of Teen Mom. I didn't want to be on Teen Mom. So I would just sin like a small amount every day, just to like make sure my uterus wasn't right for Christ. It's like birth control, like a sin a day keeps God out of your pants. What I'm saying is, I lost my virginity because I did not want to get pregnant. In addition to like really poor sex education, going to Catholic school means, I think you're gonna love this joke. It means the first time that I was fingered, I was on a bus to see the Pope. And that was not the awakening my parents signed me up for. Yeah. And they were good Catholic parents, so they bragged to all of their Catholic friends about how their daughter saw the Pope. So for years, I had people asking me, what seeing the Pope was like. I have no idea what seeing the Pope was like, okay? All I know is that I was on a bus getting fingered, and then I was in a field surrounded by Christians getting fingered. I told that joke in front of my dad, and he came up to me after the show, and he was like, Kate, you were fingered by the Pope? Thank you guys so much.
Molloy, everybody. So funny, right? I know Kate was talking a little bit about being raised Christian and Catholic, and despite what she said, I'm still considering raising my kids Catholic.